The door to João's café bursts open. You know that moment when everything's just fine, until they show up. 5 guys in their early 20s swagger in, laughing obnoxiously. Designer clothes, phones glued to their hands, loud voices dripping with mockery. They take over 3 tables, shoving chairs around like they own the place. "Hey, old man, hurry up with the drinks. We don't have all day," one of them shouts toward the counter. The gentle clinking of cups turns into stiff silence. Conversations shrink into embarrassed whispers. An elderly woman stands up and quietly leaves, her coffee unfinished. João, the 65-year-old owner of the café, clenches his fists behind the counter, but swallows his anger. In the back, nearly blending into the wall, a man watches. 76 years old, plain navy blue shirt, sitting in a wheelchair, hands folded neatly in his lap, back straight, eyes calm, but sharp. That man in the corner, the one they're pretending not to notice? In just a few minutes, he's about to show those cocky boys that life has a funny way of teaching you lessons, especially when you least expect it. The noise continues, music blasting from a phone, swearing, sarcastic laughter. "This place is dead, man. Just a bunch of old people," one of them mutters, scanning the room. "Check that guy out." Another nods toward the man in the wheelchair. "He looks like a broken robot just sitting there." The group bursts into laughter. The old man doesn't flinch, not even a blink. "Hey, Gramps, you even able to wave at us?" the tallest one yells, standing up. The room goes completely still. The guy walks toward the old man. The others follow. The mood thickens. The few customers still inside exchange worried glances, but no one steps in. "What's the matter, deaf too, old man?" The elderly man slowly lifts his gaze. Piercing blue eyes. Absolute calm. No fear. But there's something else. Something that unsettles. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," he replies, voice steady and low. "Oh, he talks. And the wheelchair. Were you born like that or did something snap?" one mocks, triggering a round of cruel laughter that bounces off the cafe walls. What none of them notices is that, at a nearby table by the window, a middle-aged man stops mid-sip. He stares at the patch on the old man's jacket. More precisely, a small emblem over the heart. His eyes widen, a mix of shock and recognition. That insignia? It's not something you see every day. In fact, it's something only a handful of people on Earth are authorized to wear. The man at the window quietly rises, grabs his phone, and slips out the door. As he walks, he's already dialing. Meanwhile, the boys keep going with their show of disrespect. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," one mimics in a mocking tone. So polite. Bet he says sorry when someone steps on his foot. The old man stays composed. There's a pause. A subtle half-smile curves his lips. It sends a strange wave of discomfort across the room. "You're young," he says softly. "You've got your whole lives ahead of you. Still a lot to learn." "Learn? From you, Grandpa?" The cockiest one leans in, face inches from the old man. "What could a cripple teach me?" And that's when the air changes. Not the man, but the room. It's as if the atmosphere thickens, like a silent storm is gathering right there, inside that small cafe. Outside, the man on the phone speaks quickly, urgency in his voice. "General Marquez? It's Roberto." "Sir, you're not going to believe this. I just found Commander Silva. He's in a cafe being harassed by a bunch of kids." He pauses. "Yes, sir, it's definitely him. I recognize the emblem from Operation Aurora. Sir, he's in a wheelchair." If this story already has your heart racing, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next is even more powerful. The line picks up on the very first ring. "Roberto, what's the urgency?" General Marquez's voice is firm. He's no stranger to urgent reports. "General, you need to come here, right now. João's Café on Rua das Palmeiras, downtown. Commander Silva is being disrespected by a group of young men and—" His voice falters. "Sir, he can't walk anymore." There's silence on the other end. Then, a heavy breath. "Stay calm, Roberto. I'm on my way. And Roberto, call the others. Everyone you can reach." Inside the cafe, the humiliation continues. You know what? One of the guys grabs an empty chair and sits on it backwards, mocking exaggerated movements. "Let me try what it's like to be useless too." He spins the chair, making faces while the others break into cruel laughter. The remaining customers lower their heads even further. The discomfort is overwhelming. The old man watches it all unfold. There's no anger in his blue eyes. What he feels is worse. For those on the receiving end, it's pity. "Do you boys even know what courage is?" he asks in the same calm voice. "Courage?" The leader of the group leans in. "Man, courage is getting up every day, going to work, hustling, not sitting around waiting for handouts from society." The old man nods slightly, as if genuinely acknowledging their point of view. "I understand. It really does seem simple when you're looking from the outside." He adjusts his posture in the chair, hands still calmly folded. "Have you ever heard of Operation Aurora?" The guys glance at each other. None of them have a clue what he's talking about. "What are you rambling about, old man?" "What operation?" One of them snaps, clearly annoyed. "It was 32 years ago. An international mission." The man's voice changes. No longer defensive. Now it's storytelling. 15 Brazilian soldiers, surrounded by 48 insurgents in a mountainous region of Africa. The room grows noticeably quieter. A few customers turn their heads to listen. There's something about the way he tells it that holds your attention. The commander made a tough call. While his team retreated to a safe zone, he stayed behind, alone, on higher ground, under crossfire, for 7 hours. "So what? What's your point?" The leader still tries to sound dismissive, but his voice is losing confidence. With every soldier who made it out safely, more bullets rained down on him. In the end, when they were all out, a grenade detonated near his position. Shrapnel tore through his legs, damaged his spine. A heavy silence fills the café. The boys look around, unsure if they should still be laughing. "You know the first thing he asked when he woke up in the hospital?" The old man looks each one of them directly in the eye. No one says a word. "Did everyone make it out okay?" Right then, the cafe door swings open with force. In walks a tall man, sharp and commanding, dressed in a dark tailored suit. Silver hair combed to perfection, military bearing unmistakable. His eyes scan the room until they lock onto the man in the wheelchair. His eyes well up with tears. "Commander Silva." His voice breaks with restrained emotion. The 5 young men turn, confused. Who is this guy? Why is he looking at the cripple like that? The man in the suit walks straight over, stops in front of the old man, and, stunning everyone in the cafe, raises his right hand in a perfect salute. "General Augusto Marques, sir. One of the soldiers you saved during Operation Aurora." Time seems to freeze. The entire cafe goes still. The barista stops mid-pour. Customers stop chewing. Even the air holds its breath. The 5 boys instinctively step back, like they've touched something electric. The general's phone rings. He answers without lowering the salute. "Yes, I'm here. Bring the others. Now." He hangs up, then turns to the boys with an intensity that chills the blood. "Do you have any idea who you were talking to?" Not a sound. No one even breathes too loudly. "This man saved 15 lives. One of them was mine. I was just a 22-year-old soldier back then. Today I'm a general in the Brazilian army, because of his sacrifice." The most arrogant one tries to hold it together, but his voice trembles. "Look, man, we didn't know." "Didn't know?" The general cuts him off with a coldness that makes them step back again. "And you needed to know to treat someone with basic respect?" The cafe door opens once more, but this time, it's not just one person. 3 men walk in, impeccable suits, military posture. One of them carries a leather folder. The 3 men who had just entered walked in perfect step toward the old man. The first, an African-Brazilian man in his 50s, stood directly in front of the wheelchair and gave a crisp, flawless salute. "Colonel Roberto Santos, sir. 12th soldier rescued during Operation Aurora." The second, younger, with red hair, stood beside the colonel. "Major Alexandra Silva, sir. I was a corporal during the operation. You carried me on your back for 300 meters to the safe zone." The third opened a leather folder and pulled out official documents, stamped and sealed. "Captain Fernando Moreira, sir. Army Communications Department." The 5 young men stood frozen. What started out as a cruel joke had morphed into something far beyond their control or understanding. It felt like they'd stumbled into the middle of a movie, and now had no idea how to act. Mr. João, the cafe owner, approached quietly and leaned toward the general, whispering, "Excuse me, sir, but what exactly is going on here? How long have you known Commander Silva?" The general asked, never taking his eyes off the man in the wheelchair. "He's been coming here for about 3 years. Always polite, kind. Orders a black coffee, sits at that table, reads the paper. I had no idea he was military. Commander Silva never talks about himself. He prefers to listen to others. The general smiled for the first time since he arrived. Then he turned to the 5 young men. The smile vanished. Do you want to know who this man really is? They nodded, still in shock, like children caught doing something shameful. Eduardo Silva, 76 years old, 42 years of military service, 3 international commendations, 2 national, saved the lives of 53 people throughout his career. Captain Moreira pulled a photo from the folder. An old, black and white picture of a strong young soldier with the same piercing gaze. This was taken 3 days before Operation Aurora. He was 44. He handed the photo to the boys. They stared in silence. The eyes were unmistakable. You know what happened after he woke up in the hospital? The general continued. He asked to be moved into early retirement. He didn't want anyone to know what had happened. Didn't want to be treated like a hero. Major Alexandra Silva stepped toward the group. I had a broken leg and a bullet wound in my shoulder. He carried me 300 meters across rough terrain, under heavy fire, until I was safe. When I asked how he did it, you know what he said? Silence. You've got kids waiting for you back home. I couldn't leave you behind. The one who had mocked the wheelchair earlier was now visibly shaking, literally trembling. We didn't know, he stammered. Of course you didn't. Commander Silva spoke for the first time since the officers arrived. His voice was still calm, not angry. And do you know why? Because you looked at me and only saw what was broken. You didn't see what still works. He moved the chair forward slightly. You saw legs that don't walk. You didn't see hands that still serve. You saw age, not experience. You saw limitation, not perseverance. General Marquez pulled another document from the captain's folder. Commander Silva was honored by the President of the Republic. He received the Military Merit Medal. His name is etched into the National Heroes Memorial in Brasilia. Dramatic pause. And do you know where he keeps those medals? The boys shook their heads. In a drawer, wrapped in gift paper. Because, according to him, medals don't make the man. The man earns the right to wear the medals. Just then, 2 more people entered the café. A well-dressed woman in her mid-40s, and a young man in military uniform. The woman walked straight to the commander and wrapped him in a warm hug. Hi, Dad, the young man saluted. Lieutenant João Silva, sir, your grandson, following in your footsteps. The 5 young men were shattered, completely undone. What they thought was a lonely, useless old man was actually the heart of a powerful, deeply respected legacy. So now what? The leader of the group asked, voice cracked. What happens to us? Commander Silva looked at him with the same steady calm he'd maintained throughout the ordeal. Now you're going to learn the most important lesson of your lives, and it won't come through punishment. He paused, locking eyes with each one of them. It's going to come through opportunity. Opportunity? Lucas, the most arrogant of the group, still struggled to process it. His bravado had now turned into genuine confusion. Commander Silva adjusted his position in the wheelchair and looked straight at him. What's your name, son? Lucas. The answer barely made a sound. Lucas. How old are you? 23. Do you work? Part-time. In my father's business. The commander nodded. And the rest of you? He looked at the other 4. One by one, they answered. Ages ranged between 20 and 25. College students. Sons of financially comfortable families. Easy lives. Let me explain something, the commander continued. You're not bad people. You're people who've never had the chance to learn what really matters in life. General Marquez watched with curiosity. He recognized that look. It was the same one he'd seen when the commander made hard decisions in the field. General Marquez, do you remember that program we talked about a few months ago? For at-risk youth. The reintegration initiative? Yes, sir. Well, I think we've just found our first volunteers. The 5 young men looked at each other, confused. Volunteers for what? Lucas asked. You'll spend the next 3 months working on a community project, every Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., no pay. What kind of project? Another asked, clearly uneasy. The commander's daughter, who had been quietly watching, stepped forward. I run a shelter for abandoned elderly people. We need help with basic tasks, cleaning, organizing, talking, just keeping them company. The boys said nothing. You're going to take care of people in the very same situation you thought my father was in. Alone, forgotten, seen as worthless by society. Lucas swallowed hard. And if we don't want to? The commander smiled, not smugly, but with a kind of paternal warmth. You have a choice, Lucas. You always do. You can walk out that door and keep being exactly who you were when you stepped in here an hour ago. He paused, scanning their faces. Or you can start becoming who you're actually meant to be. Lieutenant João Silva, the commander's grandson, stepped forward. Can I say something? He asked, glancing at his grandfather, who nodded. I was 17 when my grandfather had the accident that put him in this chair. Do you want to know what my first reaction was? Silence. Shame. I was ashamed that my grandpa was now disabled. I didn't want my friends to know. I didn't want to visit him. He looked down, emotion visible on his face. You know what he did? He gave me the same opportunity he's giving you. He made me work alongside him on a social project. Forced me to spend time with people I used to judge before even getting to know them. And what happened? One of the boys asked. I found out my grandfather, wheelchair and all, was 10 times more valuable to society than I was, with all my working limbs and youthful arrogance. Major Alexandra Silva stepped in. Can I add something? Before Aurora, I was a mess, undisciplined, thought the world owed me everything. The commander didn't just save my life during that mission. He saved the man I would become. Colonel Roberto Santos nodded in agreement. We all have similar stories. Commander Silva doesn't collect medals. He collects transformed lives. Lucas looked at his friends, then back at the commander. And if we say yes, is this going on some kind of record? Like, official? No, the commander replied. It stays between us, but you'll carry it for the rest of your lives. The question is, will it be remembered as a lesson learned or as an opportunity lost? Mr. João, the cafe owner, who had quietly watched everything unfold, stepped forward. Commander, you mentioned you've been coming here for 3 years. Why did you choose my cafe? The commander smiled. Because I get to see all kinds of people here. Young, old, workers, students. And I get to observe how people treat each other when they think no one important is watching. He turned back to the boys. Today, I saw 5 young men who needed a lesson in respect. But I also saw a cafe full of people too afraid to step in when something clearly wrong was happening. The room grew tense again. The lesson isn't just for the 5 of you. It's for everyone in here. Respect isn't something we give because someone earns it. It's something we offer because we deserve to be better people. Lucas took a deep breath, looked at his friends, then at the commander. We'll do it, but how will we know if we're doing it right? You'll know, the commander answered, when you stop asking what you'll get out of it and start asking what you can give. General Marquez scribbled something onto a small sheet of paper and handed it to the boys. Be at the shelter next Saturday, 8 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. 3 months later, same time, same cafe. Commander Silva sits at his usual table, reading the newspaper, sipping his black coffee. The routine that was shattered that day by 5 young men has returned to normal, or almost. The door opens. Lucas walks in, but it's not the same Lucas from 3 months ago. His clothes are simpler, his eyes different, wiser. He walks up to the commander's table. Commander, mind if I sit? Of course, Lucas. How are things at the shelter today? Good. Dona Merce taught me how to crochet. Said my hands are great for delicate work. Lucas smiles. A real smile. Who would have thought, right? The commander folds his newspaper and sets it down. And the others? Pedro's helping Mr. Antonio write letters to his family. Turns out he's got a talent for writing. Marcos became the checkers champion. No one beats him over there. Rafael's organizing the shelter's library. And João, well, João discovered he likes to cook. And you? What did you find out about yourself? Lucas falls silent for a moment. He absent-mindedly stirs the sugar jar. I found out I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of not mattering, of not having a purpose. So I shouted, acted out, disrespected people. Thought that made me look strong. The commander nodded, listening carefully. But working with the seniors at the shelter, I realized something. They didn't need me to be strong. They needed me to be there. And that's a lot harder than making noise. Just then, the other 4 young men enter the cafe. But this time, there's no loud laughter. No shoving chairs. They greet Mr. João politely and walk over to the table where Lucas and the commander are sitting. "Commander," Pedro begins, "we wanted to talk to you." "I'm listening." Rafael pulls an envelope from his pocket. "We wrote a letter, for you, but also for every person we've ever disrespected in our lives. You don't need to give it to me," the commander says. "Keep it. Read it again whenever you need to remember who you chose to become." João, the one who found a love for cooking, steps forward. "Commander, can I ask you something that's been on my mind for the past 3 months?" "Of course. Why didn't you report us to the police? Why didn't you humiliate us back? Why did you give us a chance?" Commander Silva looks at the 5 young men with that same calm gaze, but now they finally see what they couldn't before: compassion. "Because I learned something very important during my time in the military, boys. The goal is never to destroy the enemy. The goal is to turn enemies into allies." Marcos, the now undefeated checkers champion at the shelter, asks, "And what if we hadn't changed? What if we'd stayed the same? Then you would have missed the chance to find out who you truly are. And I would have missed the chance to meet 5 amazing people." Lucas gets emotional. "Commander, we'd like to keep working at the shelter, even though the program is over. And we want to do more," Pedro adds. "Bigger projects. Help more people." The commander smiles, the biggest smile they've ever seen from him. "You know what that means." They all shake their heads. "It means you don't need me anymore to be good men. You've already found that within yourselves." Just then, an elderly woman, maybe around 80, enters the café. She walks with difficulty. Lucas immediately gets up to help her. Pedro pulls out a chair. Rafael gently asks if she'd like anything to drink. The commander watches the scene, his eyes brimming with pride. The woman sits and looks at the group. Such polite young men. It's rare to see that these days. The 5 boys glance at one another and smile. "Well, ma'am," Lucas says, "we learned from the best." He turns to Commander Silva. "A man who taught us that real strength isn't about making noise. It's about making a difference. That respect isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. And being a hero isn't about the medals you wear. It's about the lives you change." Commander Silva, war veteran, national hero, a man who saved dozens of lives, feels a lump in his throat, because he'd just realized he had saved 5 more. "And what about you?" The commander now turns to the viewer. "How do you treat people who seem different? What do you do when no one important is watching? How do you use your strength? Do you use it to tear people down or to lift them up? The true measure of a person isn't what they do when the powerful are watching. It's what they do when no one's watching at all. Because in the end, every one of us will need someone's kindness someday. The question is, what kind of world do you want to find when that day comes?" If this story inspired you as much as it inspired us to tell it, drop a comment below and let us know what touched you most. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Real heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear silence, carry honor in their actions, and teach by example. And if this story moved you, the next one might surprise you even more.